Well, little did he know what was in that truck. He just got all the door latch come open. He just shinnied right up the side of that truck and run into a Overman. This guy had two Overmans in there. One was sitting in each seat, and he run into this dog face to face.
Oh, wow.
This dog went right into his face, just chomp, chomp, and really barking. Well, this guy fell off the truck on his back out in the street. It kind of stunned him for a little bit.
I bet it did.
And he got up and run like I've never seen anybody put as much energy as he did getting out of there. It was a sight. He was in a hurry when he left.
I bet he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Landline Now, welcome back. We are joined by a very special guest today, the man recently named by Guinness World Records as the world's oldest active professional truck driver at 90 years old. I have a feeling Doyle Archer has more than a few stories to tell, and he joins us now to share a few of them. Mr. Archer, welcome to the show. And we're also joined by Rick Coombs, Mr. Archer's boss at Coombs Incorporated. So, Mr. Archer, congratulations, first of all.
Well,
the title, right?
Thank you.
World's oldest active professional truck driver. Let me just ask you, how does that feel to have an award or a world record title attached to your name?
Well, that's an honor, a very big honor. I hadn't expected this when I started out. Had no intention to it. It just circumstances happened to lead that way by staying in it year after year. You know.
Well, you say year after year. It's been a lot of years, right?
Yes. Correct.
We were talking earlier, some 60 years, I guess, since you started, right?
Near 60.
Near 60. Tell me a little bit about that, because you started out, I think you said in 1964 in terms of driving, right? But you have been involved in the trucking industry even before that, right?
Well,
You've got a family business.
Yeah, name-wise, partnership in the business, but I never had an active part in the trucking. My dad had started this trucking business in 1961, but it was solely his at that time, and I didn't get involved, in driving until 64, 65. I'm not sure where, and then that was just a part-time deal, mainly hauling grain from western Kansas into the Kansas City area or out to Colorado to feedlots like Monfort, or coming to Kansas City to Bartlett Elevator, few places like that, and then would reload animal feed out of New Trina Mills or Schreiber Mills up St. Joe back out to western Kansas somewhere. That was the heart of the business to begin with.
So you've been working. You've been working for 60 years. That's tough work.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't on a full-time basis till about 1970, and then I bought my own truck and got my own operating authority at that time, but still doing the same thing. Sure.
And pretty much the same thing up until today, right?
Well, in some ways, I run our own business up until about 78 there, and I've had a lot of allergies. I had some very severe asthma attacks from this grain dirt, and it finally got me down. I had to get out of it. Had a little incident that ended up in the hospital out of it. And guess there was a couple times of it, but I decided I had to get out of that grain dirt. So that's when I leased her trucks on to Bringer Company in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
And I was there for 20 some odd years, 22, something like that.
Yeah. It's clearly, you do this for 60 years and you are 90 years old now,
90,
right?
90.
Yeah. It's clearly something that you love. I would imagine you're not just doing it for
That's true.
for a paycheck, right? This is something that you enjoy doing.
For both the paycheck and the
that does help, doesn't it?
Compare it to what I see out here. Many people in the industry, wherever they're at, whether they run a machine in a factory or an assembly line or what, that's monotonous day after day. Or working in an office, people got to do that routine. In this, you're all over the country. I've seen all the country over the years, many times, crisscrossing north and south from Seattle to Miami or San Diego to Boston. I've run that a number of times, and up into Canada some. No big amount, but I've been in five provinces in Canada as a result of it.
Yeah. You learn a lot doing that.
Oh, you do. But getting to see things and people is so much better than sitting in a certain environment in a factory or something like that,
What? That's interesting because I'm thinking about what you said there. I'm thinking about time. I'm thinking about 60 years. And I'm thinking about all the places that you've been and all the people that you've met over those 6 decades through your trucking career. Have you learned things about people, humans just in general? I think just from being out there and seeing so many people over that many number of years, what have you picked up about people over the years?
That's a very interesting question because I've probably met all kinds of them.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I've met some of the nicest people you'll ever see, and I've met some that's not so nice. Let's say it that way.
They're out there. Yeah.
They're there big time, too.
Yeah. Have things, well, I think I know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer it here. Have things changed a lot just in terms of trucking? We don't have to talk about humanity, but in terms of trucking in the past 60 years, I mean, what changes have you seen that have really stood out to you? We talk about good people and not so nice people out there. There have been some probably good changes in trucking, I think, that you would maybe see, and some bad ones as well. What kinds of things have changed over the years?
Well, I think the equipment-wise, the trucks are much better than they was in those old days. I mean, what we run then, what Rick run in his early days is no air conditioners, underpowered engines, spring ride trucks, old Henderson suspension maybe under them, and you felt all the bumps. You got all the benefits from it. Till today, nice air ride truck, air conditioned, nice cushion seats, all very good. And when you have to live in it like I do, you need to have something. You're pretty cramped up in there. But to see the negative side of it, it's the element you have to deal with out here that is makes
elements
it
like regulations things
regulations and people you deal with and things like that has put a kind of a dark side on the trucking industry.
Yeah.
Some of the competition we get is a little bit shady sometimes, out here. So
yeah. I think we all know that for sure. Yeah. But overall, I mean, the good outweighs the bad.
Oh, yes.
On all this, right?
I wouldn't want to do anything else, I don't think.
What exactly, walk me through a typical, I guess, work week for you now at, again, 90 years of age. What are you doing nowadays?
Well, I still run a lot of the long hauls, yet that's what I like. If I could get a load to Seattle back all the time or somewhere like that, I would run it back to back, except in the bad weather conditions in the winter. Now, that gets to be a little difficult there, but I like the long haul because I can get in the truck, I'm with that load for several days, and I can plan my trip out and back pretty much and live with it. And that's kind of why I like to stay with those type of loads. I'm more comfortable on them than a short overnight haul somewhere, those get to me sometimes. In fact, you're up all day loading or unloading, and then this customer wants his load somewhere the next day. Them situations, they're a little hard on an old man. So I'm not a young buck anymore. So
I was going to
stay away from them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I mean, this is a tough job for a young person, in their 30s. At 90 years of age, you're dealing with the same sorts of challenges that everybody else out there is. I imagine, it has gotten a little bit more difficult over the years, or is it you just hit that ground running and you're good to go every day?
You hit it running, and you plan your trip out. I know about how many hours I'm going to be, so I know about where I need to stop, and I can plan my stops at where there's a good truck stop or whatever place, and I handle it pretty good in those conditions.
Yeah, I bet. That's great. We're not going to get enough time to get into all of your stories from the past 60 years. But because I know you got more than a few.
I got a whole bunch of them for you.
I bet you do. So, I mean, I just wanted to ask you, you've seen a lot, you've met a lot of people. Walk me through kind of maybe, a couple of your more, momentous stories that you tell people at a truck stop when they ask you about the old times trucking and things like that.
Well, I don't know. There's so many like that come up. I don't know which one to pick for you. You
Yeah.
know, it's,
You gotta spin the wheel and
spin
just
the wheel
pick
and draw
one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've been caught in blizzards and held overnight or several days in one. In fact, just this last spring, I got in one up in Nebraska and sat for 4 days up at York, Nebraska, snowed in. So it's still going on just like it was in the old days. But I guess you have to learn to adapt to those situations, you know. And the thing that bothers me worse is the people out here that don't have any clue of what you're dealing with, or why they can't figure maybe why you're parked on their parking lot somewhere.
Yeah.
Like to have you move. Hey, I can't go anywhere, you know.
That's changed a little bit,
Yeah.
hasn't it, over the years?
It has.
I mean, that was always
Yeah.
probably there, but it seems like it's more now, right?
True, yeah. There's a lot of people out here that have no concept of what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And they're the majority anymore, too.
Oh, you
I
think so?
A lot of them are, anyway.
Yeah. Well, again, getting back to the nice people and the not so nice
Yeah.
people, it feels like maybe the not so nice people are louder, at least. These
Well, I'm
days,
afraid they are louder, and maybe more of them. But
yeah.
I see one thing about them: they usually don't last too long out there.
Yeah.
Till
Yeah.
they move on to something else.
Yeah.
They can't handle it.
That's true. In terms of, we're talking right now, we're talking blizzards and rude people, but I imagine you got some fun stories too of things that have happened to you over the years. Can you share one of those with us?
Well, I seen one very good one happen up in Chicago a number of years ago. I was sitting up on Fulton Street in Chicago, which is a very bad part of town, backed into a dock, unloading, and the street's narrow. Cars were parallel parked on each side of the street, but I was about through unloading, but a fellow pulled in with a nice, shiny black Peterbilt chrome. I mean, this was show truck. Pulled in out there, and he got out of his truck, didn't roll up the window, didn't lock it, and he walked right by me, and I told him he can buy. I said, if you get anything very valuable in the truck, you better lock it up. He said, oh, there's something in there they don't want, and went on in to check in. Incidentally, this place had an armed guard. They kept on duty out there on the dock all the time to keep the bad element off. But this guard took him on inside the office to get him checked in, you know. And simultaneous to this, there were two fellows coming up the street trying every one of those parked cars, see if the doors come open. They got up to this truck. One went down each side. The one on the driver's side I got to see. Well, little did he know what was in that truck. He just got all the door latch come open. He just shinnied right up the side of that truck and run into a Overman. This guy had two Hovermans in there. One was sitting in each seat, and he run into this dog face to face.
Oh, wow.
This dog went right into his face, just chomp, chomp, and really barking. Well, this guy fell off the truck on his back out in the street. It kind of stunned him for a little bit.
I bet it did.
And he got up and run like I've never seen anybody put as much energy as he did getting out of there. It was a sight. He was in a hurry when he left.
I bet he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the owner of the truck after that?
No, never got to visit with him. In the meantime, before he come back out, it was empty. And I had to pull out, and I think they were going to put him in the slot I was in, so I never did get to see him to, thank him for the good show I seen.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. Well, he was prepared.
He was prepared. Yeah, he knew what he had.
Knew it was.
Yeah.
He knew what was going on.
Yeah.
That's wild. What else? Give me one more. You got one more?
Well, not right now on the top of my mind, anyway.
That's perfectly all right.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to bring in. This is your boss. This is your boss over here, right?
Yeah,
Rick
right.
Rick Coombs,
Rick Coombs.
right?
Yes.
Owner of Coombs.
Coombs Incorporated out of
Incorporated.
Phillipsburg, Kansas, yes.
So, tell me about Mr. Archer here. You've known him for a while, right?
Doyle has worked for me for 20 years. He, like I say, I've known him since I was a teenager. I used to ride around in the truck with my dad in the summers, and we would meet him. Doyle and my dad had started trucking about the same time, about in the early 60s. My dad was driving a little bit off and on in 62 and 3. He actually started his trucking company in 64. And Doyle at that time was working for his father. And like I said, he was hauling grain into Kansas City, bringing anything and everything that they can put in them convertible hoppers hauling back into western Kansas. And Doyle still to this day, you was asking him earlier about what his normal work week looks like.
Yeah.
We don't cut him any slack. He's one of our drivers in the van division, and he goes out and runs just like the rest of our drivers. He'll outdo a lot of our younger guys. He's a top hand. He's been there for 20 years working for us, and just solidly, in and out every day. You can count on him making his deliveries and doing the job he's supposed to do.
It's interesting you say that, because I imagine there are people out there that see this Guinness World Record and think that maybe he's doing, hauling a load a week or a load every couple weeks or something. Yeah, he's working, but he's not really working. This man is working.
Yeah.
Every day, right? Every week, as he said, doing everything everybody else does.
He's roughly between 95 and 100,000 miles a year. He's out there month in and month out. His favorite run, if he could do it every week, would be going to the Northwest, out there to Portland, Seattle, Washington, and that. We don't send him out there that terribly often because different times of the freight rates, but that usually comes at the worst time in the winter.
Yeah.
Is when we send him out there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Doyle is just like any truck driver in our fleet. He's a full-time driver, and I appreciate him every day.
I'm curious, I don't even know if you know the answer to this question, Mr. Archer, but do you know how many millions of miles you've run over the course of 60 years?
Well, I don't have an exact figure on it, but it's somewhere over 5 million. And there's, we can kind of add up to 5.5 million, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, which is
Now,
impressive.
Rick has some very good figures on it there. He's kept up, but some of these older companies that I've been to, and those figures are gone, so I just estimate it by
that makes sense.
what I done.
Let me ask you too, I know your wife, Lois, I believe, is with you, right? Visiting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is she ready for you to retire, or does she like maybe having you out of the house still a little bit?
No, I think she'd like to have me retire. She's indicated that in several times.
Yeah.
Why don't we sell the truck and get out of it and go live out in her motor home or whatever?
Sure.
I've got a hobby. I like to play with old cars.
Nice.
Got some old Model Ts, and I got an old 42 Jeep and a few things around there that kind of pieces of history,
But no plans to retire.
No plans yet.
No plans yet. I wanted to ask the both of you, because obviously we're here at OOIDA headquarters. You, Mr. Archer, I believe, are a life member, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And you, Rick, are a senior member, right? I believe.
I don't know what type of member I got, but
You've been a member
looked at
for a
it
while.
before. Yeah, since 1984, I guess.
1984, and that's what I was going to ask you, because your connection to OOIDA, both of you, dates back quite a ways,
yes,
right?
Quite a ways, yeah.
Do you remember?
Can't give you the exact date on it, but
early days, right?
Yes.
We're talking like 70s, I think,
yes,
right?
I had a annual membership. At different times along, I'd have it a year or two, and then I'd let it lapse, and come back and get another one or two, and then later my wife fixed me up with a lifetime membership in it, so that's where I've been ever since. So
yeah, and I know somebody told me earlier about a visit, and I'm not sure which of you it was, and it may have been your father, Rick.
Right.
An early visit to OOIDA when it was literally tied to a lamppost in a parking lot, right?
Well, it wasn't that trailer that they was talking about. They was talking about the different locations. I can remember stopping in here a couple times with my dad in the late 70s. Like I say, I used to ride in the truck with him most time during the summer, and he'd stopped in a couple different times to talk to that Jim Johnson. And that was in the late 70s, and it was in an office building, which the guys downstairs seemed to think it might have been an old dental office that they had bought over in Oak Grove that they operated out of for a while.
Sure.
We never did stop in this building that we're in out here right now.
Until now.
Tell, yeah.
Here you are.
Yeah. Me and Doyle come down.
And you got a hero's welcome.
Yes, sure.
I don't think they rolled out the red carpet necessarily for
Well,
you.
they might have. It's just as good. I mean, very good.
And you still got
beat
more
it.
to come here after this as well, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the Guinness World Record because I know the process of that is a process, right? It takes some time and there's phone calls, and I'm not even sure what all's involved there. But getting back to this, I guess the beginning of it, I imagine it wasn't you that reached out to Guinness. I think it was
Correct.
somebody who knows you and loves you and all of that, right? Can you tell me kind of how that all got started?
Well, I had thought once or twice a number of years ago about trying for it. I just kind of gave up and let it slide, and I didn't realize it was coming on that fast. But Rick and one of the ladies in his office, maybe more, but one of the girls in the office, they got behind that, the two of them, and filled out all the paperwork and got it going there, and that's how it happened. If it wouldn't have been for Rick, I would never have been there. I mean, say it that way.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to tell you that it wasn't me.
Oh.
I went to
You gonna plead the
Doyle's.
fifth here?
Yeah, I went to Doyle's 90th birthday party. We had talked about it a little bit. Doyle said something about that. Well, several people there was asking, well, why are you still driving a truck? What's going on? Why are you still doing that, And we'd met one of our old bankers that had retired that was asking him that. When I got back, we was talking about it. Doyle said something about, well, he's thinking he's getting to be close to being the oldest truck driver around. So I have a dispatcher that's been with me for about 4 or 5 years, Carly Wolliver, that basically took the initiative on that, checked into it, found out that the last driver was like 88 years old. And so she did most of the paperwork to get that lined up. And so I got to give the credit to her. She should have been down here on this trip today.
Next
Instead
time.
of me, yeah.
Next time.
Yeah, she done a lot of work to get that put together. Yes.
Yeah, I bet. That's what I was saying. I mean, I know you got to fill out forms, and there's phone calls, and there's a verification process,
Right.
and all of that, right? And I know you've got the certificate.
Yeah.
I think, right? Is there some sort of ceremony or something that you get to go to, or do they just give you a pat on the back and say, "Good job"? You get
Well,
to be in
they
the
had
book.
sent that certificate out. Now, I don't know of anything beyond that. Maybe Rick knows what's coming there. But
We got the certificate the day we left to come down here. And I do happen to have one of them. I left it in the back seat of my pickup. I forgot to grab it to come in. It's out in the parking lot.
We believe you. It's okay.
But
yeah.
we got the certificate then. I do not believe that there's going to be anything more with that other than he's got the certificate, and obviously they're going to put him in the record book.
Yeah.
And they have locations around the country that will also be listing him. And as currently, Doyle is still driving. His 90th birthday was in December, and so we're 5 months past that already.
Yeah.
So he's probably soon going to be 91 driving.
Yeah. I guess you'd have to go through the process again next year. Is that how that would work?
I don't know, but
I don't know either,
he's
I
still
don't know.
currently driving, and everything's fine. He got him a 2-year physical, which is something I struggled to do with anymore last year.
Yep.
So he's good for another year anyway. A lot of my drivers, my elderly drivers, struggle to get a 1-year physical right now. So Doyle is in great shape and still going and
Going strong.
Yep. And back to that question you was asking about Lois earlier, she brings the cinnamon rolls. I thought that was to keep him on the road and going. But now maybe there's two different stories.
Where
to that.
are the cinnamon rolls now? I don't see any in
She
front of us.
brings them over
Okay.
periodically to our office.
Ah, there you go.
And I kind of always thought that was a gift just to keep Doyle on the road.
keep me out of her hair at home.
Or
bothering her.
something like
Yeah.
that. That's what I kind of always took it as.
We'll have to consult with her later to see what her motives are there.
Yeah.
Is there, just real quick, is there anybody nipping at your heels there in terms of world oldest trucker? Do we know? Is there any arch nemesis or opponent out there that you're keeping an eye on?
Well, I seen one. I had looked at this, went online to see if there, in the beginning of this, if there was anybody else out there, and I seen one. Then at that time, Rick mentions the person that's 88. Mm-hmm. Well, then I found one that said he was a 90 was on there, but he was only driving a very short run once every week, like 50 mile out and 50 back, and
Yeah.
that was it, just short.
Yeah.
So that was probably how I edged him out for the title on it, I guess. But,
Like a heavyweight bout or something,
Yeah,
right?
well.
Yeah, your arch nemesis is out there.
well, I don't dare stop now, or he will overtake me. So
Very good, very true. I wanted to get back because, again, we could talk to you all day, about
sure, many
Your-
things we could visit on.
About many things.
many. A
Yes.
lot of history here.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering too, you talked about, younger truck drivers out there. There's a lot of people who are entering the industry now. Many of them view it as a career. They take it seriously. They want to do right by their profession, by the industry, by their colleagues, their fellow truck drivers. What advice do you have? I'm sure you've got a lot of advice because you've seen a lot of things and you've got a lot of wisdom, clearly. What kind of advice do you give younger drivers out there when they ask you, hey, what can you tell me?
Well, I think they maybe need to be more dedicated. They're in it just because that's a job offered to them today. And many of these big companies are setting them up with a truck, no payment, no down payment, nothing, putting them in it. They're just shortly out of driving school, something. They don't have the knowledge they need going into this. And you need a lot of background knowledge to exist out there. There is so many sand traps, so to speak, you're going to get into that it's going to eat them up in a little while. That would be my sentiments. They need to be more dedicated and not just dedicated for the paycheck, because they're probably going to get a pretty small one out of all this.
Especially when they start out.
Yeah, when they start out. And I've read some articles that some of them are not getting hardly anything when it all nets out. The bills are all paid and everything, why they don't. But in so doing, this truck that somebody's selling them, this company has them driving for them. Well, they're getting cheap freight haul there. The companies benefit from them, and these people don't understand this, so they need to be a little more experienced with it and knowledgeable as to what's coming on down the road, because there's many sand traps for them to get into out there.
Well, there's so many sand traps, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's frustrating, I think, for so many people out there, including us in this building, right, is that it is so difficult. And, back when you started, I imagine things were a little bit simpler, right? There's so many moving parts now.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to get
the trucks were much more simpler.
Yeah.
They wasn't comfortable, but they were simple.
Well, and just the industry too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many more challenges out there. It feels like now. But yeah, that's strong advice. Yeah, dedicate yourself to it and learn everything you can.
They need more knowledge going into it, need to be more dedicated and understanding of the problem, what they're getting into, because they're stepping into a bad one when they do that. And very few of them are going to survive over a very long period of time. The turnover is going to be tremendous among that element.
Yeah.
The people out there.
Before we let you go here, Rick, Mr. Archer, anything else we forgot to talk about, or anything maybe I forgot to ask you about? Anything you want to add here at the end?
I think you've asked Doyle plenty of good questions there.
Pretty much. I got a lot of history and things, but then we can talk about that over a cup of coffee somewhere.
Yeah.
And
Well, we'll have you back next year when you make the Guinness World Record book again at 91 years old.
91.
Right?
Well,
There you go. Absolutely.
but what I need to do is stop by and see you a time or two instead of just going by on the interstate and wave and go on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you're welcome anytime, obviously, and you're welcome to visit with us anytime as well. Mr. Archer, Rick, thanks to both of you. Congratulations on the honor.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's appreciated.
We'll see you next year again when you
Okay.
retain the
You got a
title.
deal. You got a
There
deal.
go. Sounds good. Excellent.